The Sacramento Kings aren't very good, is a sentence you could have said at any point from 2006 to 2021 and still been correct. They currently have the longest active playoff drought in North American sports, a distinction that was previously held by the Seattle Mariners, and well, that drought is over. This season is season 17 without a playoff berth. Yep, the Kings' playoff drought is officially old enough to drive. But something weird is happening this year. The Kings are actually not bad. At the time of this recording, the Kings are 10-9 and they're squarely in the Western Conference playoff race. Now, it's still early, and the Western Conference playoff race, it looks like it's gonna be an all-out but the Kings are right there, as they seem to have finally built a playoff contending team. Let me clarify something real quick. A playoff contender is not a team that's gonna win the title. If you think the Kings are gonna win the title, you probably need to call this number. But competing for a playoff spot? Yeah, they can absolutely do that. So, how did the Sacramento Kings finally build a playoff contender? But before we start the video, please, if you would, make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a whole bunch with that pesky YouTube algorithm. Also, Ben and I are doing a Q&A for 10,000 subscribers, so if you have any questions, drop them down below and we'll respond to some of the best ones. The foundation of this team starts 5 years ago at the 2017 NBA draft, when the Kings picked Kentucky point guard De'Aaron Fox 5th overall. For the longest time before this, the Kings had a really nasty habit in the draft. They kinda sucked at it. Okay, that's a little harsh. A more accurate description would be they occasionally picked good but not great players. Except from 2012 to 2016, where their best player was, what, Ben McLemore? Ugh, Jesus. Aside from those dark years, the Kings have had some decent draft picks over the years. Kevin Martin, Spencer Hawes, Tyreek Evans, Hassan Whiteside, Isaiah Thomas, DeMarcus Cousins. Good players in that group, Boogie especially, when he was in his prime. Not really any guys you think of as the best player on a playoff team, though. Again, exception is prime Boogie. And for a while, I thought that was all De'Aaron Fox was gonna be. His rookie year was okay, but he has improved each and every season, and goddamn, he is balling out this year. Fox is averaging career highs in points, rebounds, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and free throw percentage, all while averaging the second fewest turnovers per game of his career. His improved three-point shooting is the most impressive thing to me, jumping by more than 10% while taking an extra attempt per game. And he's still only 24 years old. I think because of guys nowadays like Luka, Zion, and Ja who just light it up in year 1 or 2, we forget that most players who enter the NBA need time to grow, especially if you come into the league at 19 years old. And that's just what De'Aaron Fox has been doing, and all the props in the world to him for grinding and getting better every year. The next season, during an early February game between the Mavericks and Hornets, the Kings were able to tiptoe their way in and acquire Harrison Barnes in exchange for Zach Randolph and Justin Jackson. First and only time I can remember a player being traded mid-game. Luka was in the middle of his stellar rookie year, and with Kristaps Porzingis set to return the next season, Barnes was surplus to requirements in Dallas. So for essentially nothing, the Kings picked up a solid two-way player who was also a career 37.7% three-point shooter. His contract wasn't great, yeah, sure, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. With the midseason acquisition of Barnes, the Kings had arguably their most successful season since 2006, going 39-43. Now, yes, they missed the playoffs by 9 games, but hey, they were still the 9th seed, had a very young, promising team, and if everything shakes out their way, you never know, maybe they could sneak into next year's postseason. Oh, and then they fired their coach. Right. I will always be amazed when teams fire objectively good, sometimes great coaches because management can't get along with them. The Kings brought in Luke Walton as head coach, which worked super well, as evidenced by their 0-5 start the next season. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Luke Walton didn't look like the best coach in the NBA when he wasn't coaching Golden State, and even then, calling his stint in Golden State coaching might be a little generous. The Kings were hit by injuries, mainly to Fox, Marvin Bagley, and Raquan Holmes, and they regressed to 31-41. Only a year after he fired Dave Yeager, GM and team legend Vlade Divac would step down, and it seemed like the solid foundation that the Kings had built was starting to crumble. Despite a disappointing year, their regression might have proven to be a blessing in disguise, as it landed the Kings back in the lottery and with the 12th overall pick. With the 12th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Kings picked Iowa State point guard Tyrese Haliburton. The pick was seen by many as a home run, as Haliburton was projected to go in the top 10, maybe even higher, but slipped to 12 due to some teams being concerned with his injury history. According to reports that came out after the fact, it seemed as if Haliburton and his agent played up those injury concerns intentionally with the hope of dropping in the draft to a better team. Despite adding the promising rookie, 2021 was 2020 all over again. Fox, Barnes, Bagley, and Haliburton all missed a good chunk of games, Luke Walton still couldn't coach, and the Kings went 31-41 again. This time the Kings landed the 9th pick in the draft, and they took Davion Mitchell out of Baylor. No relation, seems too perfect to be true, trust me I know, but they aren't. With the addition of Mitchell, the Kings now had a logjam of small scoring guards. Can't imagine what that's like. And in the 2021-2022 season, with the team struggling again, it seemed like changes were on the horizon. The first of them was Luke Walton, who was shown the door after only 17 games to the surprise of all of these people, but it wasn't until February 2022 until the Kings made a real shocking move. On February 8th, 2022, the Kings traded Buddy Hield and Tristan Thompson to the Indiana Pacers for Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, and a 2023 second-round pick. Now, this trade seems like a pretty big win for the Kings. You get one of the most skilled big men in the league in Sabonis, and you also pick up 2 good wing defenders in Lamb and Holiday. And while yes, Buddy Hield is a productive scorer and a really good shooter, moving him opens room for both Mitchell and Haliburton to develop further. A home run by the entire Kings organization. Oh, hold on one moment. I am getting some new information. Oh, what the fuck? They traded Haliburton too? What?
So, my eyes are correct.
Yeah, the reaction to this trade was initial shock followed by unrelenting mockery. The Kings finally have a pair of, hell, they got 3 promising young players to build around, and they shipped the one with arguably the most potential away for Sabonis, who, again, I like him, he's good, but in pretty much everyone's eyes, he was not remotely worth giving up Haliburton. Because it's not like the Kings were in a position to win. Normally when you see a team making a move like this, it's a contender looking to add one more piece for a potential playoff run. On the day of the trade, the Kings were 20-36, good for 12th in the West, and if you want to make the argument it was a push for the play-in game, then okay, but they only went 10-16 the rest of the way, and they finished with a 30-52 record. Oh yeah, 2 days after they traded Haliburton, they also gave up on former number 2 overall pick Marvin Bagley, sending him to Detroit for Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, and Trey Lyles. Despite the undoubtedly frustrating year, the Kings got lucky in the draft lottery, landing the 4th overall pick despite only an 8.5% chance to do so, and this would be the start of an extremely quiet yet extremely effective offseason. With their 4th pick, the Kings grabbed Iowa forward Keegan Murray, a player who had just come off a season where he led all of NCAA Division I basketball in points per game. They hired Mike Brown to be their coach, which, sure, could have been worse, and then they got to work on the roster. They snagged Malik Monk after the Lakers didn't want to pay him, and they picked up Kevin Huerter in a trade with Atlanta. And the Kings marched into the 2022-2023 season with, let's be honest here, 0 expectations. And after an 0-4 start, no one was really surprised. But after that slow start, the Kings have just started winning. They're 10-5 since their 0-4 start, and they recently just ripped off a 7-game win streak. Interestingly, it's been with a superb offense and a terrible defense. Maybe not surprising if you look at the roster. I mean, a lineup of Fox, Monk, Huerter, and Sabonis doesn't scream lockdown defense, but it's a little surprising considering who their coach is. Mike Brown has always been known as a pretty good defensive coach, and yet the Kings are currently 2nd in points per game and 27th in opponents' points per game. Likewise, they're 3rd in offensive rating and only 23rd in defensive rating. Maybe he picked up some of the juju from Golden State, I don't know. It's also important to note that the Kings' strength of schedule only ranks 22nd in the league so far. So is this current pace sustainable as the schedule gets tougher?
I have no idea.
But they're looking pretty damn good so far. Fox is having a career year, Sabonis is proving he's still as effective as ever, Harrison Barnes is still a crafty 2-way veteran, Keegan Murray seems like he was a good pick, and Huerter and Monk are proving to be 2 really solid pickups. And if things go their way, it's absolutely in the cards that the Kings finally break their playoff drought. Hope I didn't just jinx them. And that's the video. What's impressed you the most about the Sacramento Kings so far this year? Let us know in the comments down below. If you have any questions for our 10,000 subscriber Q&A, leave those in the comments down below as well. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop it a like as it really helps us out. If you enjoy our content, there's a few other videos of ours on screen that you can check out. And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.